Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending this session titled Maximizing Global Reach, GTM Strategies for Web3. My name is Gary. I'm working as a platform manager at Hash in charge of portfolio management business partnership. And I will be moderating this session, which is represented by three wonderful speakers represented from OKX, Fuel Network, and MarketAcross. So without further ado, I think we can start off with the introduction of ourselves, about your background as well as the organization that you work for. Maybe starting off with Itai.
Thank you very much. It's a huge pleasure to be here. My name is Itai Elizur. I'm the managing partner at MarketAcross. We are a Tel Aviv, Israel-based PR and marketing firm. Been in the Web3 space for about 7 or 8 years. Part of that, I had several positions in more traditional Web2 software as a service startups. And yeah, we represent a bunch of companies, including Hashed, Polkadot, Polygon, Binance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a huge pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Hey guys, so I might actually get in trouble for this because I'm not allowed to sort of represent Mantle anymore. So hey, I'm Arjun. I head ecosystem at Fuel Network, and I've been, started with software engineering, went to enterprise. Then in 2016, I sort of got into Web3. 2020, started working full time, so was head of BD and growth at Polygon. Post that, head of BD and growth at Mantle Network, and now I'm head of BD and growth at Fuel. So I've been in ecosystem roles pretty much throughout my life. So 0 to 1 growth is my specialty, and that's what I plan to do, for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Thomas here from OKX, and I'm currently leading product marketing for Web3 products, namely Web3 wallets. And prior to OKX, being leading BD and a strategic partnership for various Web2 platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram here in the regions. So super excited to be here and talk about growth Web3.
Okay, so yeah, I think one of the most distinguishable characteristic of Web3 is that Web3 is truly global, so it has no borders. And what do you think is the kind of major challenges in expanding the businesses to the global markets? Because each regions have very different characteristics.
Sure. I think that the fundamental thing, if I can have people leave this talk, is understanding that, especially now, I think that my opinion is that we're also getting closer to what we think is adoption. Web3, Web2, Web1, in the end of the day, these are products, these are people, you want to market to them. So a lot of the challenges that you see in Web3 are also similar to Web2. Of course, there are things that are a bit more unique, and we'll touch about them here. But in general, it really depends on how you build your business. I'll give you an example. I am, as I said, based in Israel, very small market, and it's global from day one. I don't know startups who even have a website in Hebrew. It's not part of their thought process. So they, from day one, think about global markets, and they don't have to have that transition. Where let's say you come from Korea that has a very extensive network and market, and some projects or companies of any sizes and any sectors might be so advanced in that place where now going global is a complete shift. It could be even that their product doesn't exist, the UI or UX in different languages. So the first thing I'd say is that the challenge is if you go hyper-local in day one, it's hard to go, I would say, global after that. And the other thing is, quote unquote, the community aspect. So sometimes communities, in order to really engage them, you have to not just keep them in a Telegram chat or Discord or whatever. You actually have to start meeting these people. And as much as we love being all these distributed, huge communities, it's very hard to create a more tangible connection with people when they're just distributed all around the world. So it's a resource, I think, question, but it's also do we think global from day one?
Yeah, I think Itai talked about a lot of things which are so when you have to go global, so this is where things become interesting about Web3, right? Where the value system and the thought process is global, right? So all of us are part of this Web3 movement because we all have similar sense of values. We value decentralization. We value some of these sort of, you could say, core ethos of Web3, which is global, which is uniform for all of us. But once you start going across the globe, right, Web3 is also technology, it's also a movement, it's also a culture, right? And culture tends to be very local in nature. So for example, if you were to do this in India, if you were to do this in the US or in Europe or in Africa, there is a local culture, there's a nuance there, which you have to solve for and you have to respect. So understanding all of those things globally, understanding like different types of developer markets, different types of token holders, what you can do in certain countries, what you can't. There are legislations, there are laws. So having like a global context can become very challenging, right? And we work in a space which is very rapidly evolving, shifting. So then not only do you have to have the global context, you need to be relevant, so you need to continuously keep reading. And sometimes it can get like really overwhelming with the amount of information thrown at you. So that's, I think, the big challenge of like building a global Web3 brand or organization. Timelines, sort of time zones and sort of differences aside. But I will still say again that the core ethos is still the same. And because while we might be sort of differentiated by local cultures and nuances, we're still united by this one thought process. And as long as you stick to that, then it becomes easy to sort of, let's say, connect with other people, right? And sort of communicate what you're looking to communicate. So, yeah.
I totally agree with what these two gentlemen say right here. The way we grow the OKX, we like apply the concept of local. And it's like a combination of like combining two words, global and go local, right? By thinking globally what the foundation needs for the Web3 business across the world and build a localized approach to really drive the adoption is really the key for crucial key to growth here. And I think the growth ones can attribute two things, right, when it comes to go-to-market strategies. And first and foremost, at the product level, I think to Itai's point, you really need to design the UI experience that really cater for local experience. To use a Web2, right, as an example here, for all of us here in India or wider APAC regions, we're used to the concept of super app, whereas in Western markets, they don't even know what super app is. So with that being said, like markets like here, or Asia, we have WeChat, and like that'll Grab in the Southeast Asia, or in the US, everything's much simplified. For similarly, we want to apply that concept of Web3 app that we're developing. So really have a super app concept that really works for here in Asia, and at the same time, make the experience more seamless for the Western audience. Second of all, it's more around, aside from the product, right, really focus on message and positioning the product as a whole. I think this is where key to marketing plays a crucial role here. Without going into detail, I think in order to really get that message across whole markets, I think really ideas to really differentiate, really understand that what's differentiate point about your key product. And for us in the Web3 wallet at the OKX, right, I know all of you guys probably have different wallets. And we want to be that unified, centralized wallets out there, whether you're on ETH or different ecosystems. And with our multi-chain wallet, we'll make sure we cater all the needs from both like a UX perspective, as well as the market level demands, right? What do you guys want to need from a Web3 perspective? Yeah.
I just want to say one thing to follow up on what everyone said, but actually what Arjun said. I feel like we, the crypto community, created this degen language that's cross-national. It's like our Esperanto, so we don't need to localize because we're all degens. That's fun in games, but when we want to start getting to non-degens, then we have to start localize or whatever, because it's all cool degenning, but then local markets and actual down-to-earth users, we can't expect them to become, buying degens in order to buy into Web3.
So it seems that we all are approaching Web3 in different business angles. In that Thomas is from the OKX, so it's a centralized exchange, but also providing different financial services. And Arjun, a fuel network, is a layer 2, and then MarketAcross is a PR agency. But when it comes to talking about like go-to-market strategies, like partnership and collaboration always plays a big role. So just want to hear about any like previous successful project onboarding or partnership that contributed a lot, and any interesting takeaways. Maybe we can start off with Thomas.
Sounds good. As part of the partnership, we do both partner with the Web3 partners within the ecosystem. But today I just want to touch a point with our brand partnership with the Web2 partners. And for over a year now, we've been partnered with McLaren, one of the F1 brands out there, and that really helped tremendously onboard brand new users to Web3. I'm not sure any of you guys follow F1 here, and the recent race we had back in Singapore, we had word OKX Web3 in the tail wing of the car. And even though people didn't know what OKX was, what Web3 is all about, because that few second coverage on the TV, that drove a lot of attention, traffic to attention to what Web3 is, and we saw a huge amount of engagement as well, right, from our community. And that's the one like successful partnership I can think of recently that really drove the growth for us. I think a key takeaway here is build a strategic partnership with the organization that really bring value to both ends. And whether it's Web2 or Web3, as long as your product messaging personas also align with their customers' audience, and ultimately, right, that's the right combination mix for the successful outcome here. Yeah.
Right. So in terms of, so I can talk about different types of partnerships. Luckily, I've had the sort of experience where, had exposure to several different types. I would just say in Web3, before I start that, like in Web3, many partnerships also tend to just be announcements, not really partnerships, right? And yeah, it's just like it's a disease in Web3 somehow. Like, let's do the announcement first and then everybody forgets. So I think partnerships in Web3, first of all, are super important because it kind of melds into the core ethos of Web3 as well. Web3 is very unique in the sense that, unlike in Web2, where it's a king of the hill contest, there can only be one winner. In Web3, you see protocols create value by building on top of each other, right? So there is vested interest in some sense to partner with other protocols so that you can create new value and utility for the user, which could then augur to, like, for example, either token value or create fees. So creating new businesses inevitably requires you to work with other protocols. So partnerships in Web3 are really important, right? It's not something it's not something you could do, it's something you should do in order to create new value and utility for the user. In terms of partnerships which have done, I think some of the Web2 partnerships which have done in the past, Polygon, like very interesting. So, when we spoke to like Meta, Reddit, Disney, WorldPay, like some of these Web2 clients, it was very interesting because we got a chance to like really understand the other side. We got a chance to understand that all of these companies have really competent Web3 teams actually, and they understand this culture as well. It's just that you kind of understand the compliance, the business risk side. And I think it's so interesting for me, right? Because I can see that these companies want to do this. Like they want to do NFTs. They understand some of this culture. They want to tokenize because they understand that if you want to build a global business, running a tokenized business is the easiest way to do that. So to be able to like really see the other side, right? Which is not degen, people in suits, following the law, versus us, where we. Yeah, like Patagonia sweatshirts and compared to people like in Web3 like us, right? We essentially where we create the law, or rather code is law. It was very interesting. So I think like I think it sort of gives me hope in those partnerships that the other side, the Web2 like giant companies who might be very slow and bureaucratic, they understand this and they want to do this. It's just a matter of maybe some of the laws and possibly some infrastructure improvements need to come about, and after which I feel that when it does start, it will happen all at once. So I think that's something which is very interesting for me.
Cool. So first of all, I can talk like an hour just about this subject. So I agree with Arjun, everything he said. I work in the Web2 space as well, but only in the Web3 space is there a partnership schedule before there's a marketing plan or a product. Also, I think that people need to differentiate between the fact that you close the deal because you have a business and you close the client and a partnership. We have of our clients come and say, oh, we're a market maker and we did a partnership with this protocol. You mean, oh, you signed them as a client, and they're like, oh yeah, we did. So yeah, that's not a partnership, that's a business deal. And by the way, doesn't mean that you shouldn't maybe announce it, but you should call it the right term. So in general, a partnership of company A and company B want to maybe do something in the future together, that's out. That no one's interesting about it. A business deal that you sell a service and someone is buying it, that's great. It might be news. It's not a partnership. It's a deal, it's a transaction, still, but form it the right term. But if I can actually, I think, take that as an example. I actually had the pleasure with working with Arjun in Matic in the early days and then transitioning into Polygon. And I think that one of the things that we did very effectively, not only is, I think, create authenticity for the brand here, understanding where we're from, but also we as a PR company worked very closely with the biz dev team to form that, all right, launching gaming SDK on day 1, Game 1 joins a week later, Game 2 joins 2 weeks later, game whatever, and And by the way, that month or whatever, any announcement that didn't sit on one of those pillars was not interesting. And partnership now with some, whatever, it's not authentic, it doesn't matter, it's not part of the actual flow. And if all you want to do is pull some partnership because you hope that your NFT floor price or token price will go up, it might go up that day, but it's most likely going to be a very unauthentic move that's going to, I think, harm you in the long term. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my answer.
Thank you for good insights. Maybe like now we can shift the gears and start talking about like just certain like targeted questions. So maybe to Thomas. So since you're representing the OKX, maybe I would like to hear about how the centralized exchanges are adapting to the changing landscape and the rapid rise of the decentralized finance. Maybe like any changes in the go-to-market strategy compared to before.
Thanks, Gary. That's a really good question. I think for majority of us who's like getting the crypto, right, the first steps you go through exchanges. And I think that's where beginning for everybody's the crypto journey. And the way I see with the changing landscape, especially with the increased demand for DeFi services, I believe the exchanges in general should be more flexible as well cater to the emerging needs of their customers by really incorporating like DeFi service within their platforms. So take a OKX example here. Aside from the main exchange that we have, we also offer DeFi service through the Web3 wallet that we have within the same app. So within there, with really focus, if you're new, what they call crypto curious, new to Web3 and crypto, we really focus around the educational piece, right? What they can do with the DeFi products out there, in addition to exchange product they've been doing leveraging for. For those what Itai call degens, or I call Web3 natives, we also want to make sure we have the features and demands that, or what I call hot trends, right, within the ecosystem right now. One example could be the recent like the trends around BRC20 ordinals, and for the BTC ecosystem, like guys out there, as well as the new DeFi protocols, right, that everyone's gonna dip their feet in. So that's a differentiation that we do. But ultimately, I do believe whether you're an exchange, centralized or decentralized exchange, you should position your product, right, based on your customer needs. You'll go back to that point around positioning your product as well messaging to really fully cater to the needs of the market.
Thank you. And to Arjun, I would like to ask about, as far as I know, like Fuel Network has not launched its mainnet yet, and under the current state, we're seeing a lot of like competitive landscape in L2. So I would like to hear about what plans you have in terms of go-to-market strategies going forward.
Sure, definitely. So I think for any go-to-market strategy, for any kind of product, right, you need to first be very clear about the problem you're solving, right? So at Fuel, we're solving a very specific problem, right? So if you look at the layer 2 landscape, if you look at Ethereum layer 2s, right? So you've got optimistic rollups, ZK rollups, and then you have, let's say, L1s, like Solana, Aptos, Sui, etc. You'll kind of notice that there is a very big performance gap between anything an Ethereum layer 2 can do versus what an alternative L1 can do, right? So L2, like Ethereum L2s are fast, but they're not like Solana fast. They're cheap, but they're not like Aptos cheap. So there's a very big performance gap which exists there. And what the Fuel team is looking to do is that we want to build a layer 2 where you still settle on Ethereum. So essentially you derive sort of decentralization and security from Ethereum. But then the virtual machine is not an EVM, right? The virtual machine is built from the grounds up for parallelized, high throughput kind of use cases. And essentially it can do everything Ethereum can do, and it can do everything the Ethereum killer can do, right? So we want to solve that performance gap, and we want to bring new capability and new use cases to the Ethereum fold. And being an L2 helps a lot because now you don't have to solve all the problems at once. You've solved decentralization and security. So now you can just focus on performance. So the value prop of Fuel Network is very clear. And obviously, like once you start to think about this, right, you begin to realize that the go-to-market is also very clear now that you know the product. We are focused on the performance gap. So we're going to be focusing on dApps and builders who can sort of solve or rather showcase this performance gap. So for example, what kind of applications or what kind of builders would need a blockchain which has very high throughput, right? So for example, if you want to do anything trading related or anything which requires any sort of exchange, like those are use cases where we can build an experience which you simply cannot do on Ethereum or any other EVM chain. So we're very focused on that performance gap. I want to work with builders who are looking to sort of bring those use cases, which are currently held back due to the way EVM is built. And that's kind of how we've designed our go-to-market around this particular strategy. So all the tech development we need to do, all the go-to-market we need to do, all the sort of marketing, the business development, and possibly even the partnerships are going to be built around this very central concept, which essentially is derived from the problem your product solves. So that's kind of how I'm designing this, and we'll soon start executing it. I think we are very hopeful that the mainnet will be out by possibly end of Q2, early Q3 next year, and yeah, touch wood, and the token as well. So and then we can sort of start scaling rapidly. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so with the Fuel Network likely to launch the mainnet next year, I think there will be a lot of opportunities for developers or communities to get engaged prior to the launch. So if you're interested in learning more, please feel free to reach out to Arjun after the session. And to Itai, I would like to hear from you that since MarketAcross has been in the space since 2014, which is 9 years ago, so it's been a long time.
Fintech and I would say digital assets. Crypto only after the Ethereum ICO. I think we started actually getting 3 or 4 months after the Ethereum ICO, we really started serving dApps. Before that, it was more of fintech in general, but thank you. Thank you for the alpha.
Yeah, so I just want to hear, what kind of changes have you seen throughout the kind of long history of crypto, and if you're witnessing any recent, interesting developments in PR/go-to-market strategies.
We're talking about go-to-market strategies. That's already new. There's products. The first wave of protocols that we were working with, there was no call to action. There was no CTA. It was join the movement or whatever. So the fact that we even have products, that's really cool. Now I have the privilege of actually working with marketers. Most of the first people we worked with were not marketers. They were tech founders who were launching these products, and then became this kind of layer of shillers, which think they're marketers, but they're more like token promoters. Now again, it could be that that's a part of what we do and it needs to be there. But thinking about SEO, product fit, funnels, user journeys, user acquisition, this is not discussions that were happening in the space a few years ago. So first of all, that's already a nice novelty. And I think that, we're having a sound gap once. And I think that when it comes to I think it's, the cycles are always I think you see a B2B cycle and then a B2C cycle and then a B2B cycle. So I think we've been building in the past few years and whatever, that's great. And it's very interesting to see what the next B2C cycle is. I will say that what is the one that I dislike the most, and I'm sorry to disrespect any of you, but I really had a problem with the NFT boom, specifically on the builders on the NFT boom. I think that it brought a lot of new people as enthusiasts, and if you talk to MetaMask or you talk to whatever, OpenSea created more MetaMask integrations than almost anything that happened in the world or whatever. But when it comes to founders, even in 2017, me and Arjun would have met and said, let's scam people. By definition, let's scam them. I still need to go write a white paper, be pretty technical, think of some Web2 world I want to decentralize. There's a lot of that. Now, or a year ago, you just go to some AI generator, you do 5 clicks on whatever, and I'm in the Web3 business. So if there's one thing I hope that we as an industry, I'm not talking about NFTs as a product, it's more as a mindset, that I hope that we move beyond that, and I hope, every time I see a meme land or whatever, then I personally, as Itai, feel sad. I feel maybe sad that I didn't buy it in time, but I also feel sad that is what seems to be the most interesting implication of everything that we've been building in the past few years. So I really hope that the next cycle, I'm sure there'll be stupid things that we do and it could be whatever, but I think that the profile picture NFT craze was the worst.
I agree. So I think the time is pretty much up. But I mean, we only have 1 minute, so I don't know. It might be challenging to go to a deep kind of question. So if you have any final words to anyone who might be interested in collaborating with your organization, just quick messages, final words.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, please look for us at MarketAcross.com. We also own a SaaS platform that's a newswire distribution service. But to be honest, the main thing I'm really adamant is about getting new founders in this space, and specifically as a father of 3 daughters, I really want to see a lot more female founders in this space, because I don't know if you guys know this, but women are also 50% of the world. And if we don't have more female founders, we might not be able to tap into that 50% of all this mass adoption we're talking about. So in general, we as a company are very supportive of that and have historically been a lot more lenient and open to a lot more lower fees and flexible stuff when working with new founders, specifically women founders. So go team.
Yeah, I'd just say that, like, of course, with Fuel Network, our network's launching next year, so we've got time. But I'd love to talk to builders, and if there's anything you'd like to ask me or know about Fuel, please let me know. I'm more than happy to sit with you and sort of jam with you on ideas. But I think overall, I just want to say that I've been coming to sort of ETH India Blockchain Week for some time, and I'm super happy this time that you have all the top founders of all the top projects in the world right here, out there interacting with the community. I've been looking at some of the projects which are being built, like the builder quality has gone up dramatically. So I'm just super happy about and very optimistic about the Indian space and the builders. Back when we used to work in Polygon, and when we grew the company, we had this dream that other people will sort of see this as a guiding light and have that confidence that they can build like a global organization. Multi-billion-dollar global organization, and I think I can sort of start seeing that now, that more people have that belief. And I think the second thing which I also wanted to say is, big thanks to Hashed Emergent and Hashed in general, and to OKX, for sort of coming to India and sort of investing, in programs for builders, for users, for education. I think it's great for the space, and I hope more companies come and do this. So thank you guys. Thank you for doing this.
And quick last word from Thomas as well before we wrap up.
Yes, to Arjun's point, we're very serious about India. You guys are one of the biggest market out here in the Asia, and we really want to make the Web3 like a product available to all of you guys. With that being said, if you're not developers, please share our wallet, keep the feedbacks coming to us, give our feedbacks on our Twitter, X, at the OKX Web3. And for those developers out there, right, we're looking forward to partner with you to build out next like a B2B, perhaps WAS solution out there with you. And perhaps we can partner with local Web2 partners as well to bring the Web3 adoption through the wallets. And lastly, I don't want to compete with you, Arjun. We just recently launched a new chain called X1 in partnership with the Polygon using their CDK. So we're also looking forward to all the developers out here and to build the ecosystem with that. With that being said, thank you so much for having us, and Gary for hosting us, moderating us as well. And super excited to be here in India. I'm not sure I'm going to butcher this word, but namaste and thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all the panelists, for the insight. And